My ninjas, don't forget to head over to the website, elliottmarshall.com. Grab your free tools. Free mount instructional, little instructional on attacking from the mount in no gi and how it is I like to start my day. So a routine on starting your day with efficiency and excellence, I like to say, and a little bit of peace to go along with it. So elliottmarshall.com. Head over there right now. Get your free tools. What's up, guys? This is former UFC fighter Elliott Marshall, and you are listening to The Blueprint. I believe that there's a blueprint of how the most successful people structure their lives. They don't all do it the same. They don't all do the same things. And on this podcast, you're going to hear inspirations, motivations, and stories about how they go through their life. These stories will give you clues and tricks of exactly how you can discover your passion, find your power, and then go give your purpose to the world. Thank you so much for listening. Let's jump into this week's episode. This episode of the podcast is with Mike Diamond. Mike Diamond is I shouldn't say recovering. Nobody likes to hear recovering. Mike Diamond is an addict who now runs interventions, and he speaks and is an author. We had such an amazing conversation. We clicked right away. He's a martial artist, and man, he was just an all-around good dude and fun to talk to. So I don't want to say anything else to ruin any of the good stuff that could be in the podcast. So here we are. Without further ado, let's go. Mike Diamond. Mike, my dude, how are you?
I am good. Very good. Grateful. I'm very grateful to be here with you.
Man, let's first thank our homegirl, yes, Megan, right? Because she's the one who put us in contact. I met Megan 2 years ago now, almost. And I was like instantly like, oh man, she's my kind of people. So let's thank Megan.
Yeah,
first.
You know, it's funny you said that. Like the older I get, we can smell like the vibe of people, and we just know. And we just go, you know what? Mm-hmm. Good person. You don't have to do like an emotional background check on them. You know, when you feel someone's a little prickly and you're like, the body's giving me some signals here. I need to fucking figure out why they're so creepy. You know, the intuition's like, but she's like, so like you, like just very pure. This is easy. We got it.
It's simple, right? It's simple with her. And I need simple in my life right now. I can't do difficult relationships. Like, obviously any love relationship is difficult, right? Like that's just, that takes work, you know? I have a business partner and I love him to death, right? Like I love my business partner to death. I've been with him for 20 years, but that's difficult, right? Like, because it is what it is. But my outside relationships, like outside, and look, I would throw anybody other than my kids off a cliff for those two people. So I'm not saying that it's right, but outside of those two, man, you got to be easy for me. You got to be really, really easy for me because I don't have time for anything.
It's hard, you know. It's like I was saying to someone the other day, I can't deal with people's baggage. I can't be. I deal with doing interventions, right? I'm paid to do that. I'm paid to intervene. I expect that person to be a mess. But if we're going to have some kind of friendship or relationship, I can't be your therapist. You got to come to me with your shit together. You know what I mean? With values, rules, goals, strategy. You know, otherwise you're dumping me all that crap, and then I've got to sort through all that crap, and I've got to sort through all just life. And then I'm like, no, I can't do it, dude. I can't. You'll send me crazy.
Look, you could do it like if somebody came like, yo, dude, I need some help right now.
That's different.
But it can't be constant, right? It can't be this constant every single fucking time we talk, right? I have this is my new rule. You ready? I love to cook. Okay? So I love to have people over my house to cook. I'm going to make you a bomb-ass meal. And then after the second I'm done eating, I literally might go sit on my couch and watch the game. And if you can't handle that, if you need me to like converse with you and like entertain you, then you can't come over, right? You just can't come over because I might converse and talk with you if that's where I'm at. But if I'm not, we got to be able to just sit on the fucking couch and watch the game.
That's so great. But that's space. You need your space.
Yeah.
It's like I can't, like I say to people, and you said it really well. I do not mind my pet peeve is this. If you, I don't like, all right, so for example, you're a black belt, you're a UFC fighter. Mm-hmm. I don't go to you as a UFC fighter and a black belt. I'm prepared to work. If I want to become you, I emulate you. I shut my mouth because you have more experience. I just shut up. I do the work, right? If someone's better than me, I shut up and listen. I don't go to your gym if you're a black belt and then not listen to you and go to 50 other gyms.
Where did this come from? Because this is new. This is new. This idea,
jumping around,
right, of like, well, not the jumping around, the questioning of expertise.
I think it's too much information, and I don't think people want to do the work. I think everyone now, unfortunately, there's too much information, and instead of no one trusts the process. Mm-hmm. So
they want it right now.
So if you say, for example, I've done some no-gi work, right? I've never worked with a gi, but if we're doing some drills without a gi in the guard, and you say basic arm bar technique, you put your leg on it, you swing around, and you just say, Mike, I don't want you to do anything but do that for 3 months. And then we get the arm bar, and from there we'll go into your triangles. I ain't going to question you. I'm going to work that drill until you're better than me. I can nearly get you in an arm bar, right? I'm going to, because this is what I try to teach people. And people don't get this. Mastery takes time, and this is why. I'm unconscious and incompetent. I don't know what I don't know. Then I become consciously incompetent. Oh shit, I got a lot to learn. Most people don't get through that because it's hard and messy. Then conscious competence, a lot of work. Now people think they're done. No, until it's an unconscious competence and I can lay on the mat with you and we can go toe for toe, toe for toe, toe for toe, and it becomes a beautiful dance, right? And then what people don't understand is you will do the same drills over and over again. And that's why mastery becomes boring after a time, because like a great musician or a great guy like Mayweather, he still throws the jab. People don't want to do the process.
It's what you said, though. It's boring. It's not exciting. Like when you listen, and you know, we don't have a lot of like clips on Instagram of Michael Jordan talking, but we have a lot of Kobe talking, right? And if you listen to like Kobe talk, all he talks about is the boringness of the tedious work. Like that's it, right? It's just boring. You love basketball. And Michael, if you really dig into Michael, like I'm a huge Jordan fan. So that's where I started, right? So I've really dug into Michael Jordan. I love the game. He was the first player to ever have this love of the game clause in his contract that said, I'm allowed to play when I want, where I want. Can't get paid for it and stuff like that, right? But if I want to go play a pickup game, I'm going to play a pickup game because I'm going to hone my craft. I'm going to become a master. And if there's something that you're paying attention to that the masters do, is it's not fun. I know it looks cool on Instagram, and I know you could probably find somebody doing it differently on Instagram and TikTok or wherever else the hell you want to. But just follow the best.
Well, it's like you just said so beautifully. Like if we're learning like jiu-jitsu or stand-up, right? And what is it? Gordon Ryan, he's the top guy right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, but Marcelo Garcia was incredible, right? Right?
Yes.
So years ago when I was doing New York Inc., Army, we were in New York, and he said, do you want to roll with Marcelo Garcia? I was like, I don't know who he is, right? I said, of course, right? And this was back in 2009 or 10 or 11, right?
Yep.
And we went into the little basement, and he was so great with me. Like, he was just showing me stuff, and he was impossible to – you can't – every movie – it's just a legend, right? Him and
He's a goat.
Him and Gordon are like – I don't know if they ever fought, but –
if there's going to be 5, right, he's up there. He's the Mount Rushmore.
When I was watching the ability of when he was doing it with Army, and like he would move his toe a certain way, just a toe. And I was watching his feet. I'm like, oh my God, he's like the way he moved his foot is setting up the next move. And I'm just thinking, because I'm friends with Hoist. I met Hoist years ago, right? And he was a goat back in the day, but everyone caught up. And you look at the work that these guys do, and people think now, it's like I say to people, it's like fighting, for example, because of like Jake Paul. I'm not going to talk bad about people, but you become a YouTuber, you get some recognition, you fight some people, you become famous, right? Whatever, none of my business. But that's not craft or process. That's craft and process that lasts a lifetime, takes a lifetime to build.
And it's so interesting the day and age we're in, because we're in like the canceling of expertise. Like that's not right. One. And then two, man, I don't care if I like Gordon Ryan or not personally. It doesn't matter to me because I'm not trying to be his friend.
What?
I just want to learn what he's doing so that I can then go teach it to my students and athletes. I could care less if I agree with what I don't agree with almost anything he puts on social media, but I don't care. I'm just scrolling his social media for the next time that he puts out an instructional so that I go get it, watch it religiously over and over and over again so that I can get it and teach it. I don't need to like
it.
Him.
I think you nailed it really well. So in my line of work where like I'm writing books, I'm speaking, and I'm doing interventions, right? There's different styles. I do what they call a Johnson intervention, which is it's a surprise intervention. Then there's invitational. I don't like invitational because the kind of person knows. I'd rather come in, you don't know, bang. Get the letters done. Sometimes it's executive. I've got to find you, get you in a treatment. At the end of the day, I'm one of the top guys. There's a lot of top guys out there. They have styles. I have my styles. I don't care what they do personally. My job is to get you in a treatment. If someone's really good at it, I don't care what their opinion is. If they get the person in a treatment, they delivered. I don't care what about genders. You are really good. So I came up watching a guy called Warren Boyd. He was really good. They did a TV show about him called The Cleaner. I studied him. Mm-hmm. When I made the transition of really dedicating myself to work for companies, I'm like, I liked his style. He may have pissed a lot of people off. A lot of people say, I don't care. I watched his style. I followed him. I kind of figured out. Then what I did is I was like, okay, I'm going to study NLP. Because why? I like Tony Robbins. I thought Tony came through the NLP thing. I liked what he was doing. I wanted to study mindfulness. I studied that. I didn't care if people say it's not as good as TM. It worked for me. So what I did is I learned I got certified in the Johnson approach. I looked at Warren Boyd, who was executive. I put executive to that. I put NLP in there and mindfulness. So I went to acting school. So I studied method acting because growing up, I loved De Niro. So I went to a method school. So I looked at all these things and all these idols I had. I don't care what they politically believe. And Brando, I loved Brando. And I said, okay, now with my thing, I have so many things I pull from because I made them my own. So it's like you with MMA. You do kickboxing, you boxer, you jiu-jitsu, you pull from everyone. And that's your toolbox. Yeah. And then when life shows up, you have so many tools to be successful.
It's this constant student approach, right? It's this constant student approach.
That never gets
mentioned
easy. Sorry, go.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, it doesn't get easy. Like, if you're dead when it's easy,
pretty much,
right? It's over. You're dead. Get out of the game. Get out of the game. Whatever game you're in, the second it becomes like a step one, step two, the second you're doing that, just stop. Go do something else, right? Go do something else. Figure it out because you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your client a disservice. You're doing your friends a disservice. Look, I think I'm doing my wife and my kids a disservice.
Correct.
If I'm not pushing, because that's just not who I am.
Yep.
Right? That's just not who I am.
It's not comfortable. It can't be comfortable.
No.
It's never going to be comfortable.
Last thing I'm going to say here before I want to move on to you a little bit. My wife asked me the other day, she's like, what kind of coach do you want for the kids? What kind of coach? Because my kids are really into basketball and we have great coaches. I'm not saying that. And I help them a ton. Like I mentor these guys to be better coaches. And I said, baby, you know what I want? I want someone who's going to shorten their life because of how much they give. They're going to get high blood pressure and high cholesterol and migraine headaches and a massive amount of stress right? Because of what they give. And they're going to die an early death at 60. But that will get canceled out by the amount of love and not admiration, but the amount of love that gets given back to them from their students, from the people that are learning from them. All the negative side effects will get canceled out by love and appreciation, so that you'll live an actual regular life, regular length life. But that's the kind of coach I want, that like they don't sleep, they got headaches, they're everything about them is suffering. But when you add the love back, because everyone knows how much they give, then it's good. That's the kind of coach.
You said it so good. I was speaking to a friend of mine who I got sober, and my life was great. I'm sober 17 years this week. Yeah. Everything's great. I mean, to get the show Intervention, where I used to use years ago when it was being starting, and I said to him, you got to remember this: a fat person has to try hard to get thin. A thin person has to try hard to stay in shape. You got to choose your hard. When the buzzer goes off at 4 a.m, we're all looking to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So it's the same for everyone. Getting up is always going to be hard because the bed's pleasurable, right? And that's what people get attached to motivation. I'm never motivated. I don't worry about how I feel. Like I always say, successful people do the work no matter how they feel. An unsuccessful person wants to feel good, feel right the right time. There is no right time. There is no feel good. There is me on a podcast with you. Yesterday's dead. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 minutes from now. I have to be committed to a set of rituals, routines, and process that's empowering, right, to help me close the gap from where I am to where I want to be. End of story.
Let's talk about your story.
Right. Well,
so you've mentioned sobriety, you've mentioned intervention. So obviously obviously I've done a little research about you personally, but not too much. But I like to go on the journey with people. Obviously, I'm assuming it, and I think you've mentioned it here. You were an addict. You were a struggling addict,
Drugs and alcohol at 12.
How'd you get there?
How did I get sober, or how did I start using?
No, how'd you get the drugs and alcohol? How'd you get to the bad?
Abuse. Trauma and abuse from a kid. Not my parents' fault. I forgive them. I've done all the trauma work now, so I can talk about it. It just chaotic household. My generational trauma that I broke, so I didn't pass it on to my son. But generational trauma can last years. Grew up Greek, but I'm Greek, Italian, Middle Eastern. Hardworking father. My older brother got sick when I was 7. Measles encephalitis, was in a coma. My younger sister was 13 weeks premature, which I don't even know how she survived back then. My dad worked 12 hours a day.
13 weeks in 40 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, think about that. She's a freak, and a freak athlete as well, and so talented. She's a legend. Little brother, he had some issues when we first got up. He had allergies and that. So I had ADHD, dyslexia growing up, super athlete. The crazy thing is, my sister, her kids run track, and she was looking at the times I used to run as a kid, and she's like, you were a whole nother level. Because I remember running at 8 years old. I ran 10.9 seconds in the 70 meters at 8. And at 9, I ran 14 seconds for the 100 at 9. By the time I hit 12, 13, I didn't really mature, but I was still running 13 seconds. I was still really quick. Got a state as a kid. I was a weapon.
And let's just so everyone understands, 10 seconds is world record time.
No, that's 100, but I'm talking the 70.
Right.
But still the 70 meters.
Fast.
Fast.
But you're a kid.
A 7-year-old kid. 7 or 8-year-old kid. So if you look up national records
versus
now,
a grown-ass man.
When you look up national records, I even looked them up, and I was in Australia, so I'm not running against American kids. But the fastest kids in the world at 8 or 9 were running 9.5 seconds. So I was only a half a second off some of the top kids in the world at 7 or 8 years old.
Right.
But I never had a mentor. No one coached me. No one gave me love. I got my ass kicked. I was abused. So all I did is at 12, when I tasted liquor, it was guaranteed. Liquor and drugs, guaranteed. As soon as I drank, guaranteed. As soon as
you were making me a little nervous there, because I have one athlete. My younger son is a freak athlete. But I was like, God damn it. I was like, is he going to go? And then you're like, but there was no love. There was no mentor.
No love and mentor.
So that's
if you don't have, look, I'll tell you why. When I was so successful, it was two things. Kids hated me because I was successful, and my mum called me a show-off, and my dad never showed up to see me run. So if I lost, I was abused and called a loser, and I had learning disabilities. So in fourth grade, my teacher used to get me up at school and make me read to all the kids in class. They would laugh at me instead of pulling me aside, and my parents like, oh, he's having trouble reading. So the dyslexia, the ADHD, the anger, the trauma. So I was never in rest and digest. I was always in fight, flight, freeze, or feed, right? Always tension in the house because of the dynamic of the dysfunctional family. Not my parents' fault. How do you have 4 kids and not have any tools and not regulate your emotions, right? They were abused. You pass on the abuse. So once I hit 12, 13, and I matured late, I was tiny. All the kids grew. I was fast, but they outgrew me. I would drink. 15, 16, I wanted to kill myself because I got kicked out of school. And fortunately, I had a beautiful neighbor. She didn't even, the crazy thing is she intervened without even knowing what she was doing. And we talked about it years later, recently. I jumped over a fence and I wanted to kill myself. And I had a handful of pills. And she just saw me in her yard. And I don't know why I chose her yard, to be honest. I just chose it. And she didn't know what I was doing. And she just said, are you okay? And I was honest. I said, no, I'm fucked up. I got kicked out of school. I got no help. I got no friends. I was going to this other school. The kids hated me. And she just fucking hugged me, man, and told me she loved me. And all she did, and it changed my life, she said, I promise you this, in 30 years from now, this won't matter. You're before your time. I believe in you. You're going to be okay. And that's all she had to do. And I was like, wait a second. What if she's right? That's all I kept in my mind. Because no one ever told me they cared for me or I was enough or they believed me. And I'd achieved a lot of shit. So I graduated high school and I moved from Perth to Sydney. I took a chance at acting. I just knew I could do it. It was another one of those things. My life has never been rehearsals. It's bottom of the ninth. There's the ball. Close it out. I've never had this. Now looking back on it, the stress and the shit I went through has prepared me. I can survive and I can rely on myself. I can always rely on myself. And I auditioned for a big acting school and they took me. But then I had drug and alcohol issues. I wasn't drinking and using. And again, bad mentor. Got a horrible mentor at acting school. This piece of shit took me and another girl after school, got us messed up, took advantage of her. I couldn't really do anything. I was drugged up. I was drunk. It was my mentor. What do I do? So the next day I went to class and I was like, what do you need me to do? And she's like, don't do anything. And then I confide into another friend of mine who was at school and she's like, do something. He needs to be kicked out of school. So I went to the dean and I said, hey, this is what happened. And I said, I'll leave, but kick him out. And I never told him that. And so they threw him out. And then I was like, and I always followed my gut, right? Always intuition. I made a bad choice, but I was young. I was misled by people. And I took a job in a clothing store, which is a crazy story, by this Greek guy, Park Greek. And I'd always bullshit to him. I'd walk down and see him. And I was like, I need a job. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I want to go to America. And he's like, so you're going to come and work for me and then fucking leave me? I said, kinda. So he gave me a job. It was great. He loved me.
At least you're honest. You're like, yeah.
I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. I don't want to sell clothes. And so I had this thing. I made up this little style thing where if women came in the store, I would get to know them. And then I would say, who are you buying for? Your husband or your son? And they'd say, like, someone. It's a dude, it's a men's store, right? And I'm like, oh, were they about my size? And if they said yes, what I would do is I would trick them. I would grab some clothes that looked good and I would fucking try the clothes on for them and come out. Because they were at acting school, they'd be like, I'll take the outfit. So after 6 months, grinding away, making a ton of money, he makes me an offer to be the area manager. I said, absolutely not. was making six figures. I was early 20s, killing it. And this lady said to me, she's like, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm moving to America. And she's like, you should enter the green card lottery. I was like, what? Fuck a green card lottery? I thought she was crazy. The next day, this is the craziest thing. I was in the back, a little stoned with the guy I worked with. And it's an open air mall, right? And she's carrying bags to the store. So I was like, fuck, we're not open yet. She's going to return the clothes because it was for her husband. So I hid in the back, and my guy, Al, at the time she comes, knocks on the window. He's like, what do you need? And she's like, oh, is Mike down? He's like, is everything all right with the clothes? She goes, yeah, I bought him the green card lottery ticket. I fucking came around. I was like, hey, I'm going to be honest. I was hiding in the back. I thought you were going to return the clothes. She's like, no, they were great. She hugs me. She gives me the fucking ticket. I was sitting on my bed, I'll never forget, in Bondi Beach in Australia, and I'm looking at this green card ticket, and I'm like, I'm going to win a fucking green card. I sent it in. 6 months later, the embassy contacted me, and they're like, you won a green card in a lottery. How crazy is this? Now, check this out. Check this out. If I would have taken the linear approach and not stood up for the girl, I would have thought, go to acting school. It was the same school that Hugh Jackman did. Get an agent, come to America. No, you got to do what the universe guides you to do. And intuitively, I knew I had to stand up for the girl. I didn't know I was going to get a clothes store, and I didn't know by doing the right thing, the universe would gift me with a green card, right? That came out. It's like winning $1 million back then. You can't win it. You can't get into America. It's so hard. Now, the beautiful thing was I would go back and visit Dean, and I came back. I'd had a lot of success in America, and he was still in the clothes store. And I looked at him and I said, Dean, I love you, man, but you don't look well, right? Now, here's the thing. I took the journey to America. I did all these things. I lived the life. Dean died 3 weeks later of cancer. Didn't make it to 50. Made it to barely 50, right? And I thought, fuck. He took that simple linear approach, right? I took all the risks, came to America with nothing. And this poor guy didn't leave the clothing store, right? Because not saying there's anything wrong with selling clothes. There's nothing wrong with having a job, but it wasn't his calling. And I always tell people, your calling isn't a conference call. It's an individual call, and your vision, no one should be able to see your vision because it's my vision of the world.
Right? They have to think you're crazy.
But
right?
you aren't crazy because to other people it has to look crazy because how would you see it? It doesn't make sense. And it's not supposed to make sense. And it's not supposed to make sense now. It's supposed to make sense when you look back and you look at the steps, right? So what do? I moved to America with nothing. I'm still on and off the drugs and alcohol. I get discovered in Miami. I'm in Miami first. No friends. And this is before Facebook, dude. This is before you could go online. Oh, Australians struggling in America, trying to make it, like a Facebook community. It was me, just me dealing with people, right? It's me against the world. Yeah. I'm trying to, I had to restart my life, and I was working in a jewelry store, and a guy came in out of nowhere and said, you look pretty cool. You should work in a nightclub. I said, fuck that. I hate nightclubs. He goes, it's $250 a night. I said, I'm working in a nightclub. Had a little apartment, right? It's crazy. And I was hustling in this nightclub, right? Making money out of nowhere. This guy comes in, this manager, and he said, they're opening a famous club from New York's coming to South Beach in 1998. They're called the guys from Chaos. They started Bottle Service, Studio 54. They're going to love you. I will get you an interview. I'm like, I don't want to do it, right? I was honest. There was hundreds of people, thousands of people lined up down the beach trying to get to meet these guys. It was the hottest club coming down. He sees me. He grabs me, pulls me to the front of the line, right? He sits me in front of the owners. They're like, what do you do? I said, dude, I'm going to acting auditions. I got a music project I'm working on. I just give me a job where I VIP rope, whatever. I don't care. I'll take a busboy's job. I had no ego. Like, I didn't care. They're like, well, we're going to hire you. We love you. The night the club opens, the guy, Michael Lowe, pulls me aside. He goes, how you feel? And I said, I feel fine. He's like, we've got a surprise. We're going to make you the head doorman of the whole club. I'm like, what? He's like, can you do it? I said, of course I can do it. I'm an actor. I'll do anything. That guy, we're still friends, changed the course of my life. I am standing at the front of this fucking club with every celebrity from Jack Nicholson to fucking Madonna, to all these celebrities coming in, right? And I was the guy.
They got to come through you.
It had to come through me. And I learned the game. I was like, wait. See, what I try to tell people is, when we were younger, when I was in Miami and New York, and then I moved to New York later, you didn't swipe right to meet a girl. You had to have a fucking conversation, right? And here's the thing. I had game because I ran the club and I ran the door. And guess what? Every movie producer had to get to know the door guy. Every actor had to get to know the door guy. So I knew, I was like, wait, if I can do my creative stuff and I can be the door guy at night, because what would you do? You'd go to an after work party to socialize. We mingled. We got to know each other. And that was my hustle. I was like, then when I moved to New York with them, I got in with those guys. I was on Bungalow 8 on the TV show Sex and the City. I was doing acting gigs. I was hustling. And then I end up opening up a club with Scott Weiland, Duff McKagan, and the guys from Velvet Revolver, the biggest rock stars in the world. I helped put together Miami Inc. I introduced Army and Charlie. And then I'm sitting there going, and here's the crazy thing about this. No one believed I could do it. I would go to CBGB's and I would go, well, there's a problem. They're like, why? And I'm like, well, you see a band and you leave. They're like, yeah, that's a rock club. I said, no. And I was working at all the big clubs. I was like, wait a minute. And I knew everyone. I'm like, I can throw an event. I love rock music. And I knew all these rock stars because they would come to the clubs that I would work at. All the rock stars would go, call Mike. He's cool. So I thought, imagine if I bring the people, I load everyone up, and then I step back and put the band on. And then I throw an after party. They're like, you can't do it. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Fuck you.
And I did it.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough, the singer from Fuel hooked me up, and he basically called, I didn't know the guys from Velvet Revolver. That was him. And then I became very close with Scott, and that pivoted into the VH1 show that we were doing. And then my life changed because I talk about it. It's like I got sober because Scott was going one way. I could see his wife and kids leaving. And I had that moment of clarity. I was like, no, I'm out. And everyone thought I was crazy. I was doing about an 8-ball of cocaine a day and drinking a bottle of vodka every day. And I talk about it in my book. I was a fucking disaster, but I was showing up for work every day. I was going to the gym. I was doing jiu-jitsu classes, and I would come in and roll with guys. And this guy said to me one day, he's like, dude, you smell like vodka and Red Bull. I said, that's what I was drinking all night. He's like, but it's coming out of your pullet, like out of my tits. But I was shredded, training, out of my mind. And I thought that was living. And then I had that moment of clarity. I was like, nah, this is not life. I'm going to get sober. And I got sober. And I never questioned it again. I was like, fuck that. I'm getting sober. Changed my whole life.
It's so interesting to me, a couple of things you said. One, like the linear path, right? Because I was a linear path person. Even though it seems like I wasn't, because I was fighting, which is obviously not a linear path, which is craziness. Before fighting was actually a way to do it.
You mean you were actually in street fights?
No, I was fighting professionally, right, and working towards that career. But in 2006, when like the UFC just was starting to really pick up some steam, right? Like, yeah. But it was the very beginnings of the blow up. It wasn't the end of the where we are now.
So was that the Ultimate Fighter 2006?
Yeah, I was on the Ultimate Fighter 8.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I was on the 8th season. So, but I can remember it, and he's just so important to my life, Rashad Evans, saying to me, man, if you got the title, I remember him asking me a question. If they asked you to fight Chuck right now and Chuck was the champion, I was like, I would say no. And he's like, what the fuck is the matter with you? Because I was on the linear path of it, right? I was on I got to do this and then this and then this and then this, right? And then I'll fight Chuck. But I'm not ready for that. And he got so mad at me, homie. He got so mad. He was screaming at me and I couldn't understand it. And I couldn't understand it until I had this like breakdown. Way later in life, after my career. And now I can't imagine thinking like I used to think. Like it's so shocking to me. I'm like, what the fuck, how could you have possibly thought like in this linear way?
But it's in your programming. Do you think because see that's not wrong, because do you think so? All right, look at it like this.
I'm a math guy. I was a math major in college. Right. So it's fucking linear, bro. It's like you do these steps and then you get the answer. Right? And then you get the answer.
Look at the context. He's a black dude. He can't follow a linear.
But so am I.
No, but in the sense of like, if you look at probably where he's come from, he's probably never been able to take a linear path. He's probably.
But dude, I'm a black Jew. My grandparents survived the Holocaust. There ain't no one in the world like me.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, you know what's interesting?
Me and my sister.
But here's the thing. That's so interesting you said that. See, my brain. So I'll tell you what changed.
It's just wiring. It's just wiring. I just follow the steps. Look, I followed steps because I needed to stay safe. I needed to stay safe because Hitler was coming again. And therefore, if you just followed the steps that they told you to do, because like, look, that's what my grandparents taught you. You get a job, you make money, right? And you get a contract. You get a contract that says, and then you just go through the steps so that you'll have money when Hitler comes again. You'll be able to run soon. That was there, like because
that's generational. And trauma. Yeah, you can't change that.
Yeah. All my bullshit is because of that.
But you like me became a transitional character where you break the lineage, which is very hard, right? So I was going to say one thing all right, here, so you'll love this. So people ask me, do I do affirmations? And I said, no. And the person says, why? And I said, I'll explain to you. To me, and this is to me, self-confidence and self-esteem is built very simply. You'll understand this analogy. I tell people, let's just say there's two people in two different cities and they both go to their car at night and they're both mugged and they can't take care of yourself like you. You're a level above me.
Got it.
And
got it.
One guy goes home and all he's watched is people say, manifest your dreams, do affirmations. And for a year, he stands in the mirror and just affirmation. I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm all this bullshit. The other person that goes through it says, well, I know Elliot teaches jiu-jitsu. They go to you and they like Elliot. Someone came up to me in the car, pulled a gun on me. What do I do? And you're like, okay, you're going to do my jiu-jitsu class. And basically you teach them a skill. A year later, the same thing happens. The person that does the affirmations gets robbed, right? The person that goes to your classes chokes the guy out and says, right? So what is self-confidence and self-esteem built on? Skill set.
Skill sets.
Nothing to do with affirmations. So what I always used to do, you go.
I want to ask you this about affirmations, okay? So I don't know if you call them affirmations, but I do every morning. I do these things called like I have my routine, right? And I pray and and then I do my I am statements. Okay. But my I am statements are they're not I am strong, I am confident, because I'm not always strong and I'm not always confident. None of us are. Right? Like that's an impossibility. You can prove them false. I will show you a place where that was false. My I am statements, for example, is I am a father, I am a husband, I am a teacher, I am a student, I am a fighter, and I am a survivor. You can't prove any of them false.
That's not to me. See, what I love about those, like I say, I am going to be calm. I am going to be centered. What I tell that to me is that's affirming reality. When you're saying I am confident, but you're not doing it to close the gap to be confident, I'm like, that's being optimistically delusional. What you're saying is you're affirming reality. So if you're affirming reality, like I am a father, or I want to be patient, right? Or I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be a good student. That's actually driving you in the direction of taking action. If I say I am strong, I'm like, okay, what's the context? Are you going to go lift weights to get strong? Are you going to go jiu-jitsu? Right? I am smart. Are you reading a book? Are you watching a podcast? Because that's where I say if it doesn't affirm building the skill set and taking action, it's just words. And we all know you've got to walk the talk to build self-confidence and self-esteem.
Yes.
Right?
You have to acquire
the skills. You're right.
Skills.
And here's the great thing I always say to people. Do the work in the dark and you'll shine in the bright lights. If you don't do the work in the dark, you'll get exposed in the bright lights because you're a paper champ and you've got a glass jaw. Eventually, you're gonna get caught slipping. And if you do that, you know this. Yes. If you get a paper champ and you're the dog in the gym, right, that's prepared to die, especially and that's what I tell people. People are like, you have fought in a cage. It's not a pillow fight. It's real shit, right? People talk. Oh, no, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. I've done Muay Thai with really good Muay Thai.
Everyone says that they would fight like in Mike Tyson's heyday. Man, give me $5 million. I'd walk out. No, you wouldn't. If you didn't you would shit your pants in the back room and pass out.
I remember training doing Kyokushin karate and then training with a Muay Thai instructor in New York who had 300 amateur fights and professional fights. Was doing Muay Thai, fought in Lampetti Stadium, the big stadiums. We trained. I never forget the first 6 months, I could not walk. He makes you pay a month in advance. I could not walk from the leg kicks. He kicked me so hard one day, and I had the pads holding it against my leg. I nearly threw up, right? How powerful this guy was. And he was only 170. He fought with Raymond Decker. Like, he'd fought with the greats. I mean, he was like cast on. I remember kicking him. We'd do 1,000 kicks a day. I kicked him in the leg once. I swear I kicked him so hard. And all he said is like this. He went to me, good kick. Good kick. It was now, this is the best thing. I then was in the club business, right? And I've been training with killers. I've been training with guys that were world champions. I never wanted to fight in the ring. I'd spar with the guys. I'd get my head rattled. It was too much because that wasn't my thing. I just want to be able to defend myself at the doors, right? The clubs. Yep. I'd get choked out by the guys that were with Henzo's school. But these guys were proper guys. They would beat me up, right? But that's what I wanted. So I could be ready at the door. I got in a fight with a guy, 6'6", big Guido guy. He threw a punch at me. I stepped back and kicked him with a low kick. I didn't realize how well they trained me. I kicked him once with the low kick. He buckled and started screaming, "Who kicks in a street fight?" I'm like, oh, it worked. That's what he said, right? Who kicks in a street fight? And I was like,
me, motherfucker.
All the training worked, right? I went back to the dojo and I started laughing. He goes, what happened? I said, I swear to God, I was so drilled from you. And I never won in the gym once. They beat me up so bad because I wanted to be beaten up. So I was ready for the door job because I had security, but I was ready because I was a door guy, right? I didn't want to be the door guy that ran to security. And they beat me up. I was never going to get close to beating these guys, right? It wasn't the point. I was never trying to be a pro fighter.
But this is what's so hard for everyone.
But right? I wanted to defend myself. So the best thing was, right, then they would laugh. And the security guys would, like, get in arguments to, like, get Mike to leg kick him, right? Because they just got my leg kicks down. I was quick. I was a sprinter, and I could whip you with a leg kick. And unless you were a good, really good fighter, you could check it and you were a pro and you knew what you were doing, I was hurting you. Because I was getting beaten up and my legs, I never forget, I was dating this girl and I took my shirt off and she was a yoga instructor. And she's like, what is up with your body? I was always covered in bruises. I mean, when the bruises I had over my body, broken ribs, my thighs were so black and blue all the time. She's like, what do you do? And I said, come to class one day. And she would watch these guys. But I was the only guy, and it was true. You could beat me up. I would show up, I would shut up, and I got better. And, like, I just got better because I would take a beating. I took so many beatings, and it was the best because it humbled me. I was never going to be at that level. There were people, I'm like, you have no idea. These guys were pro.
Don't care, though.
But these guys were pro fighters. They would mangle me, and I would, but they were kind mangle. Because I never had an ego. No one would try to hurt me. It's just that know the difference if you roll with me. You could choke me out in a second, or you could let me play, and I'm tapping. And that's what they would do. They would just wear me out. But no, people have no idea of the discipline it takes to be a fighter. It's a whole nother level.
And it's why, everyone, Izzy fought over the weekend, Israel Adesanya, and no one can understand what that took.
Oh, to lose three times against the same guy?
3 times. And the last two getting knocked out. The last two getting knocked out. No, everyone's like, oh, what is to understand the mental fortitude that it took, and then the way that he did it, he walked forward.
Yeah.
He came at Alex, and Alex had knocked him out the last two times, one of them flat and unconscious, right? So to come forward in that fight is just to fucking do it again. Just to make the walk to the cage is, I don't know how he did it.
Here's a question.
I don't know how he
really
did
interesting. Do you think? See, he's the only fighter I've actually seen that's come. Like Tyson never could do it against Holyfield. Everyone said he wasn't his prime. It didn't matter. He just didn't. Holyfield had his number, right? He got dropped the first time, beat him the second.
Yeah, but look, this is different for me because Izzy was winning all of the fights.
Yeah, but
then got knocked
exactly.
out.
But what I'm trying to say is, do you think? All right, so Dustin has become a better fighter than Conor now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can Conor beat Dustin?
No,
he can't, right?
No,
he can't, right?
Look, and
that's why
he has power. Conor has power, so anybody can catch somebody, right? But
Dustin's
but
better.
Beat
no,
him?
he's better. Dustin's a better fighter now, right? So here's a question: do you think? No, it pretty because I think they did. I was watching it. I think no one's ever done what Izzy did in a rematch.
No, not in a title. No.
Not in a title fight. No one's ever come back from getting. I think was it?
No. Cain did it.
Cain Velasquez.
Cain did it against Dos Santos.
And Mike beat wasn't it? Stipe beat DC.
No.
Didn't he come back?
Yeah, he did.
He came back, right?
Yeah, he did.
The second time?
Yeah, he did.
That's the only guys, right?
This was more, though.
No, you're right.
No.
And Pereira had his number. Let's be honest. He beat him in a kickboxing back. And Pereira's a big dude.
Yeah, and it looked like, it just seemed as though, like I did an interview before the fight. Somebody asked me, I was like, look, I think Izzy's better, but it just seems like the fight gods are against him in this fight.
Well, you know as well, as a fighter, styles make fights.
This wasn't even styles though. This was like the gods. Because look, okay, so their second kickboxing match, okay, Izzy knocked him out at the bell of the first round,
and he come back.
But Pereira was able to get up and recover, and then he knocked Izzy out. But if that was 10 seconds more, then it's over.
Wait, when their first fight, didn't Izzy rock Pereira as well?
Izzy knocked him out. He was at the bell. So if Izzy could have thrown 3 more punches, then the fight's over.
So here's a question for you as a fighter. This is really interesting. Do you think, as a fighter, when you fight someone, you're like, I can get this guy. It's just a matter of time. It's like, because Dustin knew. I knew when I have to watch the first fight with Dustin and Conor, I was like, it was a back of the head punch. It was
Dustin had to gain confidence
and change.
Dustin had to do what you said,
right, and do the skill work,
acquire skills,
and he worked through some wars. And Conor got complacent. Who I do love Conor. I do. I've got nothing against Conor. He's been great for the sport. But I realize I'm like, Dustin's a grinder. Dustin did the work. It
always comes down. Yeah. It always comes down to who's going to do the work, who's going to build the skills. Yeah. And Dustin built the skills, right? Dustin built the skills. Now, look, what Stipe did really well against DC was he took time off.
Yeah.
Right? He took a lot of time off when he got knocked out to let his brain recover.
Yeah.
Okay? What Kamaru Usman didn't do was take time off.
Ego.
Right? Because with massive knockouts, like the massive knockout that Kamaru took against Leon Edwards like that, right? Where it's just one shot and you crumble like that. Your brain is not okay. Your brain is not okay for a long time. And if your brain's not okay, then your body becomes not okay. So and you saw Kamaru in that fight. He was sluggish and slow.
Can Stipe beat Jones?
No. Nobody's beating John Jones.
Really?
Nobody's beating John Jones, bro. There's nobody on the roster right now that will beat John Jones. Who can beat John Jones is Francis Ngannou.
You reckon?
Look, Francis Ngannou
has
right? What I call the sleep. Now he's got what I call the sleep touch.
He hits you.
Where if his pinky He hit
But
so
he
hard.
can't wrestle. Well, he can wrestle. Actually, he's a big dude. Yeah.
He's learned it. Yeah. Look, I don't know. I didn't say he will. Hold on. Let me be clear.
He could.
There is never going to be a fight where I'm betting against John Jones. Okay. Never, ever is there going to be a fight in the history unless things change.
Timing,
right. But right now,
timing. Cain Velasquez in his prime, John Jones in his prime. Who wins heavyweight?
John Jones.
Really? Brock Lesnar in his prime.
John Jones.
Really? He couldn't.
Go ahead. Start to say somebody else's name. Go ahead. Start to say somebody.
But Brock would out wrestle John.
No.
Really?
No. Distance. John Jones is so long, my dude. John Jones is so long that he's so good at the distance management. Look, DC is a better wrestler than John Jones. DC's a way better wrestler than John Jones, but he couldn't manage the distance to be able to close it correctly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where John Jones was the initiator, he controlled where the fight was and the pace of the fight.
So you even think so then a young Randy couldn't beat John?
Right, young Randy would get smashed by John. Wow. Oh yeah. Nobody beats John Jones. The only person that has the skill set to beat John Jones is Khabib. But he's not big enough.
Got it. Too small. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because you're a fighter, so I don't you see it differently to me. I think I think he's a legend, to be honest. I like him.
He's the best.
I do love him.
He's the best. He's hands down the best.
I love him.
And
I love him.
Yeah, he's too good. He's too good.
I love him. I have no issue, especially being an addict as well. I kind of empathize with it because everyone talks shit, but I'm an addict, so I kind of love him.
Hold on. Let's be clear. John Jones is a piece of shit as a human being.
He's an addict. He's crazy. He's fucking crazy.
Hold on. John Jones is a piece of shit as a human being.
But he's an addict. He's an addict.
Yeah, but hold on. But that can
he is. If he got healthy
when we hit stop and record, we'll talk some more, But
he's got some demons. We haven't talked about the book, so because I know we're going to wrap.
That was my next question.
So basically, here's the interesting about the book: it's not written for an addict. It's written for anyone that wants to make a more empowering choice. And the reason I called it a dose of positivity, it's basically dose is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, the 4 brain chemicals we all search for.
Oh, fuck yeah. I thought it had to do with drugs.
No. So it's either getting an empowering dose or a disempowering. So the way I tell people is this: forget everyone, no one gets out of the human experience without a flaw. Whether it's sex, whether it's gambling, whether it's shopping. For me, it was cocaine and alcohol. Some people, it's a heavier drug. We're all flawed. Some people sit on their phones too long. So when you make a choice to reach your full potential and self-actualize, you can't do it by making disempowering choices, by getting a disempowering dose, right? So when you look at dopamine, it's the reward system. We all crave the reward system. Now, for me as an addict and my ADHD and the stress, I have lower dopamine receptors in my brain. So that's why I'm more stimulated for cocaine and uppers. I have a massive threshold because the endorphins in my brain are very strong. So I don't need pain medication. I have colitis, undiagnosed, I had undiagnosed colitis for years. I went through stomach surgery. I don't worry. I ran 30 half marathons after stomach surgery, 30 half marathons in 30 days when I was told I'd never run again. Right? Don't take pain medicine. But because I'm wired, like my dose is really stimulants. So I have one coffee in my brain. I'm like, imagine what 6 would taste like, right? Pain medication doesn't do it. So I know where I have to.
Sure.
Yeah. So the whole point is when you look at things like jiu-jitsu, that is giving you an empowering dose. It's mindfulness movement. It's helping your endorphins. It's teaching you pain threshold. It's spiking the reward system because you have values to look forward to, right? It's oxytocin because it's building community. It's building friendship. So if you look at a thing like jiu-jitsu or martial arts or mindfulness walking or mindfulness eating, if you do all these things, you don't need to then take in massive amounts of sugar, massive amounts of alcohol, massive amounts of toxins. Because look, let's forget what people say. Everyone says this is not organic. No, everything is processed. Everything comes from this planet Earth, right? So organically, it's from the Earth. It's just processed different. And there's some things that help us live a more empowering life. And then we know some things are poisonous to the body. right? There's some mushrooms that are magical and there's some mushrooms you can't eat, right? So it's like you've got to make a choice as a human being. And I always tell people, have a purpose, and your purpose should be to learn a skill set to bring value to you. If my purpose is to bring value to a person, I will always profit. If the cause is right, the effect is money, right? So work, forget everyone else. We're all born with a talent. God gives us our talent, our gift. The gift is to acquire a skill set to then take that gift and present it to you.
Look, we have to close here because you must know the questions that I ask at the end.
What's the question?
And there's two questions I ask. First of all, outside of Megan, right?
Yeah.
Because she connected us. I always ask everyone why come do the podcast with me? Because I'm not famous. I don't have this massive platform. Well, look, I hope you sell. I hope one or two people go and buy your book, but it ain't going to make you a New York Times bestseller. That's for sure. And if that's what you thought, fuck. So why take an hour out of your day to come talk to just, a bald guy that used to fight when it might give absolutely no returone monetarily?
Well, first of all, because I looked you up and I have massive respect, and I think it's Rose. I don't know. I don't want to misquote the person that first said it, but you're in the arena like I am.
Right there, baby.
Teddy Roosevelt. I didn't even know it was there.
Hangs on my wall.
How's that? I didn't even know it was on the wall. I didn't even know. So I know you're in the arena because you fight for a living, and I know what it takes because I've worked with fighters in their mental health and addiction. Mm-hmm. That's the arena. There is no the chamber of truth, like Teddy Atlas says, is the ring, right? You can't lie about that. And I train with either a Navy SEAL or UFC fighters, because I have respect. I know what it takes to be that vulnerable, right? And I didn't even know it was on your wall. So that was the first thing. I knew we would connect because you're vulnerable like I am to take that risk. And that was really it. I looked you up. I'm like, this is a real dude. I know we'll get along. I know he's a fighter. Jake Shields is one of my good friends. I know I know a lot of the guys. So I know Jay Silver's Jay Silver used to be my security guard back in the day. Okay. So I know what it takes to sacrifice, because I sacrifice, and be vulnerable, and it's hard. And so I'm like, I know we'll get along because it's not smoke and mirrors. It's really tough. So that's why I knew we'd connect.
Appreciate it. Second question goes into the last question here. Goes what you said. I too, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, to me, it's all the same. It gives you something. It gives you a talent. Mm-hmm. I believe you have to discover that thing that is given to you. Like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, like we were talking, that's basketball.
Correct.
Right? For other people, it's something different. You then go give it to the world.
Correct.
And then the world gives so much back
Correct.
to you. Once you discover that fucking thing and you start giving it out there, the world gives so much back to you. What's yours?
Well, see, I'm very lucky. So God blessed me with a beautiful talent to connect with people empathetically. I've always had it. I don't have to think about helping others. I don't have to think about bringing value to others. It's always been in my DNA. I am then very lucky that I'm creative and can write. And I'm very lucky that I can communicate, improvise, and that's why I was good at acting and speaking. I don't have to think about getting on a stage. I don't have to prepare speeches. Once I know it, I remember it. So God gave me that. Now, my job is then to understand and refine the craft. So if I get complacent and I don't practice speaking, I don't practice writing, I don't read a book a week, I don't gain the knowledge, then I can't then, it's very simple, inspire people, educate people, and motivate them to live their potential, love themselves because they matter. And my medium is writing books, speaking, doing interventions, and coaching.
That was amazing.
And I just stick with that, and rituals and routines, and I allow the universe to show me the way.
It's so interesting. We live our lives the same. We live our lives like the father, husband, student, teacher thing. I stay right there.
No,
I just
do the reps.
Yep. And teaching, I call speaking.
Yep.
Teaching martial arts and coaching. And I just stick right there. And on the weekend, if you want a badass meal, you can come over. So I can cook okay.
There you go.
Right. I'm not a pro chef, right? Like I can't cook pro chef level. But for a home meal that you're going to make, that you're going to eat. But I don't try to do anything else. And I think that's really important. I think this is something that people mess up all the time, is they try to be good at too many things, right? They try to be good. They try to be good at too many things. And I have no interest in being good. I'm only on the chase for motherfucking greatness.
Well, just be great at one thing. Be a sniper.
That's it.
Go and sit in the fucking woods and know how to take that single shot. Like I always said, I would rather be Mariano Rivera when I used to watch him at Yankee Stadium and come out of the bullpen and throw a couple of innings, but
2 innings
and shut you down and take a day off, than have to be on base every time. Fuck it. I would rather shut you down.
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest closer of all time.
Dude, I used to watch him at Yankee Stadium back in like 1999, 2000.
It was amazing.
And Enter Sandman would start, and I would just watch this fucking guy. And you could, back when he was younger, you couldn't get a hit off him. You could not get a hit off him.
You couldn't.
When he was young and his prime, it didn't matter what it was in the innings, you weren't going to hit him.
It was over. The game was over. Come eighth, if the Yankees had a one-run lead, come the eighth inning, checkmate, baby. Checkmate. That was it. Awesome. Mike, tell everyone where they can reach you, my dude.
They can get the book on Amazon. It's pretty simple. And select bookstores. If they're in Vegas, they can go to Barnes & Nobles in Henderson. If they're in LA, they can go to the Grove. They can find me on @Mike_Diamond on Instagram, on Twitter, just Mike Diamond on Facebook, and the Mike_Diamond @yahoo.com is my email. If you are sick and suffering, if you're in pain, if you need help with an intervention, I check my messages. I check my email. Please do not suffer in silence. Don't make a bad decision. Don't go and do a bunch of pills. Reach out to me.
My dude, I think we're going to have to be homies. Sorry about that. My wife says I'm like the fungus. I grow on people. So.
Bad fungus. Hey, mushrooms are fungus. A lot of people do microdosing.
Mushrooms are funguses. That's right. Yeah.
Plant medicine.
Guys, anyway, as always, don't go out in the world and try to be Mike. He has his unique gift and power that he goes and gives to the world. Please don't go out in the world and try to be me. Mine's the same. I have my thing that I do. Please go out in the world, everyone, and find your own power. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found something useful that you can take and implement into your life. Don't forget to head over to wherever you are listening to this podcast and leave a review. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, go follow me on social media @FireMarshal205 on Instagram. Leave a comment, anything that you would like there. And as always, if you think this would be useful for somebody else that you know for their life, send it their way. That would be greatly appreciated. That's it for this episode, guys. I hope you all have a great day and you go step into that power so that you can give your purpose to the world.